Hey everyone, it's Dad here from YNV Health and Wellness and Footprints Retreat. Tonight I've got a special guest joining us to share some of his knowledge and experience along the way with his coaching. He's been doing some amazing work. He's an elite wellbeing manager and a neuro linguistic programmer. He's a dear friend of mine that I've known well over 25 years. Welcome, Paul Todd, to tonight's show, and good to have you here.
Up with you. I haven't seen you for many years, but we still speak occasionally, and it's always having great catch up with discussions with you.
Yes, Paul, the last time we caught up, I believe, was at your dad's funeral, unfortunately. Paul's dad was a great boxing champion, an iconic icon of Australian boxing. His name was Billy Todd. And Paul's done so many things. He's developed and produced the Shadow Boxer, and he's been working as a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner for many years now. He's very knowledgeable on the field, and I get a lot of insights, and I love speaking to him, and I'm sure you will after today's session. So, Paul, great to have you, as I said before. And I've got a list of questions that I wanted to share with you and ask you, and perhaps some of our viewers watching this back can get some insight on what you're doing. And later on, if they want to get in contact with you, perhaps they'll have that option too.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. So, Paul, I wanted to ask you at first, I know a lot bit about you, but our viewers don't. And I believe people like you, people need to know about what you do because you're really good at what you do. And we'd love to hear a little bit about your background and your journey.
Depends how far we want to go back with that. We'll just start more career-wise, I guess. So, look, as you mentioned, my father was a champion boxer and a sports conditioner. So I accidentally fell into that space later after I left school for a few years and fell into the personal training side of things. So, and did that for probably over 20 years. And it was a great experience, met some amazing people, great contacts. And I guess that was my first foray into coaching in some sort of form, which was more on the fitness side, which is specialized in boxing.
Paul, I believe you were one of the first people to open up. Sorry to interject. That it was actually ahead of its time. That little studio that you had down in Bondi.
Yeah. Well, look, at the time I was just started running boxing classes at 𝙤𝙤𝙮 Police Boys Club just before that, and it was pretty new. I'm not saying I was the first person to do it. Some other people probably did it. But it was pretty unique. It was mid-80s, I think, something like that at the time. Yeah. And then at the time, the Police Boys Club didn't want to have people outside of boxing, yuppie boxing, they used to call it. So then they weren't keen on that. So I used to train at 𝙤𝙤𝙮. So then I looked for a location and found the one at the Beach Road Hotel, which was the old Rex Hotel. And then we set up the gym up there. So yeah, it was pretty unique. It was more polished floorboards, the boxing ring. It wasn't your old standard gritty boxing gym that we all know and grew up in, but it was like a New York loft. It was pretty cool, pretty unique for the time. And we had it went for a couple of years, and then I decided to move on to something else. But yeah, look, I love that gym. It was amazing. It was an amazing gym. I think it's when I first met you, actually.
Yeah, it was. Look, it was an amazing place. I remember you were doing some work with, was it Steve Johnson?
Yeah, Steve. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing guy, Steve. He's been doing some amazing stuff too. I'd love to have him on this show someday. But yeah, please tell us more. I know there's so much more you can tell us with your journey and what got you into this line of work that you're doing now.
Okay, well, so I'll look, just a quick skip ahead from the gym. I invented the Shadow Boxer, which you remember is a fitness device, which we ended up, selling around the world. And it was a great product. I mean, and that's when I learned my first experiences in business stress, coming from a personal trainer. There was a great experience, but when it's quite green to that industry, you grow and you grow, and there's a lot of business problems that I had to learn on the way. So it was very stressful, and your well-being does take a bit of a hit from those sort of things if you don't know how to deal with it properly. From that, eventually, years later, I won't go into all the details with that. Then I started getting interested in sort of life coaching, I guess you call it back then. It was around about 2012, 13. And I did a course through the Coaching Institute at the time. Didn't really get a chance to do much with it, dabbled in it a little bit and let it put aside. And then a few years, probably 5, 6 years later, around the time we invented Mrs. Toddy's tonic with my wife, which is a health plant-based health brand for drinks, which is now Woolworths and everywhere. I started getting into Steve Johnson, who you just mentioned, actually. He runs the Wellbeing Science Institute, which is he's a bit of a leader in the industry. He's got all these psychology degrees, sports psychology, corporate psychology. And he started running these programs for elite athletes and NRL teams, which is now the AFL cricket. They all have wellbeing managers now. So basically, they implement them into the club, and then they design programs. And the model is a salutogenic approach, which is more towards a holistic model, where we have like 8 different components in us as humans, where we have to work on, which are physical, mental, spiritual, career, finance, community, family, all those relationships. So the idea is for them is elite athletes focus on one thing mostly, just the game, the win, the results. They tend to forget about all the other parts of their life. So the model is designed to get them to work on different areas, those different areas in their lives, work on SMART goals, which are short, specific goals, and then start seeing the results. And obviously every little win, whether it's a little win or a big win, you feel good about it. So then from that, you start getting results in these other areas of your life. And then you start feeling better about yourself. If you get injured in sport, you've got other options. And then you keep your family connections. You might have to go to another country to play or another state. You work on how you get into the community. And obviously things like most athletes aren't aware of finances, teaching them areas how to invest their money or saving money or cutting costs elsewhere. So the whole idea is to have this holistic model. So Steve's now in the UK doing it with all the elite soccer teams over there as well. So anyway, I did that course, and it actually did a lot for me because I was going through a pretty stressful period of my life at that time as well. And the things I learned from that were invaluable. And then I'm now teaching other people that. So I'm using this successful elite wellbeing model now with entrepreneurs and business people and general public, but it's more focused towards being an entrepreneur and being through the struggles I went through. I can use that model from the elite athlete wellbeing model and now incorporate that into entrepreneurs and business people who aren't that different because they all tend to over focus on one thing too, which is business, or they get caught up in it all. So that's quite successful. So yeah, there's a lot of different variations in it from growth mindset and etc. But that's pretty much in a quick short bite of what I've been doing for the last 30 years, I guess, in different sections.
That's amazing, Paul. I mean, knowing you for the stuff that you've done and stuff that you share with me, and we've done a lot of stuff together. You even employed me once to do some choreography for you for the Shadow Boxer, which was an amazing experience. And if you could just share with our audience watching this back about what SMART stands for, and they're going to get a little understanding of what it is you really do. Okay,
so we all know about goal setting. So we all have different goals. So I'll put it in an athlete perspective. I want to win the grand final this year. Okay, well, to get there, there's a lot of steps to get there. So that's your big goal. Great. Now, to get there, how about what we do is we work backwards. So we get to the start. So there's your main goal. So let's come back to the start. So what can you do this week that can get you towards that goal? And it might be where could you work on? So SMART goal is specific, the S, measurable, the M, attainable, R, so mental blank now, R is relevant, and T is timely. So the goal, so what it means is pick a specific goal that's attainable, that's not going to be too hard to do, it's achievable, and it's relative to your main goal, and you can measure it. So this week, if I get to the end, it might be my goal kicking I practice on this week to get 10 goals through. And so that's a small goal. And then you build on those goals. So yeah, it's basically small bites of goal setting instead of just, it's too far away, the main goal. There's too many steps in between. So they're basically those stepping stone goals to get you there that are achievable.
That's it's such a smart thing to do and a logical thing to do, Paul. What some of the things that you truly love about what you do, Paul? Because I know you do a lot of things, but truly about this athletes management, wellbeing management, and also your neuro linguistic programming as a practitioner and as a life coach.
There's different areas. Look, being a personal trainer like yourself in the past, if there is some it's about gratitude. It's great seeing, clients improve, see them, get the results, see they're grateful for it to you. You get a lot out of that. And there's a lot of studies on gratitude by writing gratitude letters, the endorphins, the oxytocin can stay in, basically up for 2 or 3 days. So there's a lot in doing things for other people you get a lot of gratitude out of, which my father used to do everything for nothing for everyone. My mum hated it because we never had any money. But he, and I look back later on life and went, he died a rich man in a different way. Everyone loved him. He didn't have a lot of money for what he did. He wouldn't accept money. But it took me a long time to understand it. But and I started practicing a bit of that myself. I'm a mentor for Waves for Wellness, where I give my time. It's a mental health charity that teaches people to surf, and we talk about well-being and mental health on the beach. And I just mentor there with the facilitators. So that side of things I love doing, but obviously we need to all live and make an income, unlike my dad making money out of it. So the coaching side, it's the same model. I do love helping people, but I get paid for it. But it's great seeing people improve. I learn a lot, even like you're saying tonight, even when I'm coaching people, I learn a lot about myself as well. It holds a mirror up to yourself as well. So it's a learning process for yourself as much as you're helping them.
Yes, Paul, I couldn't agree with you more. And talking about your dad, and I mean, his love and his passion and his contribution to the community wherever he went was obviously evident in the funeral service. It was an incredible service, and yeah, it was just so evident with everybody there, with all the stuff that he did, and then what you do as well, Paul, with the surfing community, with the surf club community, with I know you trained in a lot of celebrities and people in the past, people like Vince Sorrenti, the comedian, correct? And a lot of different top, well-known celebrities in Australia. But I wanted to ask you, what do you feel as a life coach are some of the most common problems that clients or people that you encounter through our line of work face each day? And what's one of the most common things that comes up all the time?
A few things. Self-belief for a lot of people. There's certain traumas that people carry through life that are triggered. So self-belief for a lot of people. So there's the limiting belief system, which we try and work on. And a lot of people have this limiting belief of how far they can go or what they can do. And, and it's been proven that, if you dedicate yourself and change your mindset, you can go beyond that and do a lot more. We just limit ourselves to things. We put a barricade there saying, oh, because someone said this, I shouldn't do it or I can't do it. So limiting belief systems, I noticed that similar to a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. We all make mistakes. We all fail as part of life. It's how we grow and how we get better. If we all wanted everything, we wouldn't learn anything. So, we all fail and make mistakes. So especially in athletes, we notice it a lot more, but, if they make a mistake or the coach puts them down, they have this fixed mindset, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, where we train them to have a growth mindset, which is building resilience. So it's more about going, okay, you made a mistake. Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, what did you learn from it? What can you take away and learn from that in a positive way? So when you come back next time, that's all you've learned from that. Let's try it again next time and become better. And that's where a lot of the coaching systems change now of athletes, because the old coaching system was screaming at the athlete, putting them down, thinking that tough love to a certain point works, but not when you're abusing people. So that whole mindset for coaching, if you notice a lot of coaches now, and a lot of coaches like Wayne Bennett, for example, a lead up in the NRL, a lot of athletes will go to play under him for less money just to be with him as a coach, because he's more of a mentor, a father figure. He talks to them. So, there is something in that model, and it does help people learn. So, so they're the main areas I think I'd probably look at. When I work with clients is what's their limiting belief systems? How do we change that? How do we get them to start thinking more of a growth mindset? And then NLP comes into a lot of that internal dialogue and how you teach them to talk. And also, we've also got to understand that we all have a different perspective on life. So what, you might see and what I might see may vary from our own life experiences. We have a different way of interpreting it. So there's a common term in coaching or NLP was the map is not the territory. So, while we all might be in the same environment, you could be hiking through the same territory. I could be driving a car. We'd all have different maps. It's the same territory, but it's how we view it and from our experiences and where we are at that moment and how we interpret the territory. So there's no right or wrong in a lot of cases. In some cases, how we see things, it's what our experiences that we've gone through and how and our teachings allow us to see that. Same as in religion and everything else. Like, that's what you're brought up with and how you view things.
It's so true with behavioral science, Paul. As you said, like we're all accustomed to our experiences, our events that have happened in our life that can limit us to growth, limit us to achieving certain things. I know with myself, the other week I was asked to do a workshop at St. Leonard's for training grounds, a boxing workshop, and I did it. And for 3 days, I was buzzing. I crashed a little bit afterwards, but I was buzzing. And I made a couple of phone calls afterwards to other gyms and stuff like that. And they want me back there. They want me to do a few more workshops. And it's just snowballing from there. And it's incredible, when I personally myself started doing this life coaching or this neuro-linguistic neurotransmission therapy with the studies that I've done on behavioral science, that with my first retreat, I ran a retreat with only 4 people in it. And that was such a good, a run through for me, as to say. And before you know it, I had 11 people at a retreat. And it's so true, like learning from our experience, from making mistakes. And it's just an amazing model, just making mistakes, because what doesn't break you really makes you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Look, without resistance, no different to our brain is no different to, or our mind, our brain is no different to our body. If you lift a heavy weight, it's got resistance, you struggle, and your muscle gets stronger from it. It learns to adapt and it gets stronger. Same thing with mindset. Like, if you learn, to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then, if we all sit back and don't try, we don't get very far. But then sometimes you've got to put yourself out that step and fall. Like when we started in life getting up, crawling, and somehow we just got up and tried to walk and we fell. And then we got up and fell again. Then we learned how to balance, and then we move on. So without trying things, without testing yourself and falling and making that mistake, we don't improve. So, and I think that gets knocked out of us a bit. That baby who learned that natural instinct to get up and try and walk and fall, or climb a chair and fall, and not to do that. That doesn't work. Or put your hand on a hot plate, you learn you don't do that. So until we try things, we don't really learn. And when we go to the problem with the school system is we're just drilled into certain mythologies of learning, which is don't get me wrong, education is great, but they also can condition us not to think outside the square. No, don't. What if this teacher? No, that just stick to the program. So there's no room for expanded awareness. We've just been told to just do it this one way, and there's one way or the highway. So, and once we leave school, depending what you do, we start meeting other people. We might travel overseas, different religions, whatever it is. We start learning different views and different ideas, and then eventually we can make those decisions ourselves. So there is something for, you do have to, step to the edge a few times to look over. Otherwise, you'll never know what's on the other side, and you'll never learn.
Well, look, Paul, something that Nadia and I have spoken to other guests in the past. There was a really good book that I enjoyed going over. It was by Maurice Miller, who talked about the 3 stages of human growth and development. And the first stage from 0 to 7, which is the imprint period. The second stage from 7 to 13, which is a development period, and then your socializing period from there onwards. And it is not until the socializing period that human beings are able to sometimes have their own perception about their preferences, whether they be sexual, whether they be political, whether they be religious, whether they want to follow the same paths as mum and dad did and stuff like that. Yeah. It is not until that stage, with all the bombarded and the programming that they've received at school and at home by other people, imprinting so much luggage and so much stuff, that they're at a stage in their life where they really get to make or start to make their own decisions. And it doesn't happen until at least 15, 16, 17, 18, until they reach the last stage, the third stage of evolvement and development. Look, personally, I think I'm still evolving at 54, and I think we never stop evolving.
Yeah, you never stop evolving, and that's the nature of the beast, really. So, I mean, look, when I had Shadowboxer, we got into a tech project, which I won't go into it, but it went pretty sour with the partner I had, and we lost a lot of money. And I was pretty stressed, and we decided that let's just rent our house out. Let's take our kids on a journey. And we took off to Indonesia. We based ourselves in Bali for a year. Kids went to school there for a while. We traveled around the islands off the beaten track. But what I liked about it for them was we all lived, kids these days, we all live in a bubble in Sydney. It's a beautiful place. It's pretty easy to have a good life here. Everyone's pretty much the same in a lot of ways. We are multicultural, but we're pretty much the same. But for them to experience going to a school and learning a new language, and then having the school takes them to, there's a lot of orphanages there, so they have to go to the orphanages and give books and read English, and they're only like 10 and 9. The experience they got from all that in 1 year, and I think that's the best universities travel, because you're meeting people outside of your four walls in your neighborhood, your city, your country, and you learn so much, and it teaches you to have a different point of view. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, okay, well, now I can see that this way, or now I can see why this religion's this way, and you learn different cultures. So it does start, look, our mind, our brain, our minds are hardwired. So that as you said, from different ages, we're hardwired. So it's a way of rewiring your brain, of just opening up new synapses by new experiences. Your brain actually grows and develops more brain cells by learning new things as well. The harder, the better. So yeah, I think the best education in a lot of ways is to, once you're old enough, is to travel and experience other cultures and religions and races and everything else as well.
Yeah, look, I'm encouraging my kids to travel when they get a little bit older. I want them to do it with me or without me. I know my son really loves his soccer, and he'd like to go to Germany someday. And I would love for him to do that, to Germany or England, do some of these soccer camps and programs and that. Leilani's into performing arts. She's a little bit young now, but I'd love for her to travel. But yeah, travel is such, I believe I've learned so much. I haven't traveled probably as much as you, but I've been fortunate enough to travel to Fiji. I brought up in the Middle East, traveled to New Zealand, traveled to different parts in America, and everywhere you go, there's just people just carry themselves. There's different customs, there's different languages, different norms that are different from where we are brought up here in Sydney. And once you get exposed to them, you learn to appreciate where you come from and respect other people's ideas and map of the world. But Paul, I know you've been working with a lot of people, and as we spoke, like some top celebrities and sports people, TV people, etc. And you must have seen a lot of different great transformations. Is there any particular transformations or a great story that you can share without sharing any people's names? You don't have to share anybody's name, but maybe share with us. And
great transformations. Let me think. That's a good question. There's a couple. I'm trying to think which might be more relevant to say. I had a lawyer, I won't say who it was, a female lawyer, who was Greek and grew up in the traditional Greek family, and she became a lawyer. But there was that standard, there was the old school father who sort of wanted a son and not a daughter to follow him through. He was a lawyer as well, he had a legal firm. So like just the belief systems and the pressures he put on her for not being the male in the family, it affected her deeply. And in the legal world, it can be very male dominated in a lot of ways. So it was really working on the limiting belief system that she grew up with. How do we rewire that thinking for her? And also, like similar to an athlete, she wanted to be so good at what she did to please her father in the law firm that she lost scope of everything else. So she put on weight. She wasn't doing any other hobbies. Her relationships wasn't enough time for relationships. So we started working on a holistic wellbeing model. Now, also, everyone has 24 character traits. We've all got them, and they're all in different varying degrees. There's a free I'll tell you in a minute. There's a free link you can go on, and you can do a survey on it, and it's a psychology survey, and it tells you where your strengths and weaknesses are. So we tend to focus on our weaknesses, whether we in a negative way, or we try and improve them, which there's nothing wrong with improving them, but we forget about our strengths. So if you've got your strengths, why don't you play to your strengths? So I taught her we did the character survey. and build a holistic wellbeing model. So we played to her strengths and worked out what they were. And then we used those strengths in the holistic wellbeing model in the different 8 areas of her life, or everyone's life. And we started putting the SMART goals in. So over a period of time, we rewired her thinking in that way that, stop focusing just on the one thing to please someone, work on yourself to please yourself. And the way to do that is to work on these other areas of your life. And over time, basically we developed, it was over a 12-week program. And then we just got her mindset to shift. And also it's about the little wins. When you focus on, the other areas, say it's weight loss or finance or relationships, even if it's call it weight loss, even if you lose 1 kilo, it's a little win. It makes you feel good about yourself. Then it encourages you to do more. Same as the other areas of your life. So over time, she started feeling better about herself. She realized that she could do other things in life and develop and to shift that mindset of rewiring into other things. She was good enough at law. She didn't need to be the superstar she expected to be. And that it's about balance, as you know. And once she created that balance, her whole energy changed. And I believe that, I do believe in the vibrations with people. And if you're in a negative energy, people sense it, and it's like, you feel it and you got to stay away. Where if you're in a happy mood and the energy is vibrating out of you, people are drawn to you. So all of a sudden her relationships changed, everything started to change. So I guess that's one example, by starting using the right model, the right changing belief system, and brain when I say rewiring, it's just positive psychology exercises on a daily basis, just doing a little thing each day, which will start growing into a bigger thing.
That's amazing, Paul. I'm having flashbacks as you speak. And the reason I say I'm having flashbacks is because when I first started my journey with this work, I had an Asian female client. And when she was born, her dad was extremely disappointed. Coming from a Chinese background, he wanted a boy. And then a couple of years later, when her sister was born, he was completely disappointed, so he disowned them. And then when the third child was born and the mother came home sitting on the couch, breastfeeding the baby, instead of being ecstatic and happy from her giving birth to a child, she was sad, crying and upset simply because she was the third girl and he disowned them all. And it wasn't until the day that he died that he still had no connections with the girl. And I had my role with her was to talk about that to her, about that it's not her fault, that she's not responsible for other people's belief and other people's view of the world and how they perceive things and what they expect from everybody else. And she realized that, and she went on to live. She's happy now and she's enjoying life. She's exercising, and she's doing really well physically, mentally, and spiritually in her working career, etc. But Paul, what a great share, and how great it's been to have you here tonight. Is there anything I can ask you that perhaps you're pursuing or working on right now that you'd like to share with our audience? Anything that you
I'm writing a book.
There you go.
Look, I've always dabbled in a bit of writing, and over the years, and I started writing a book a while ago, and it was more about to help teenagers change anxiety and depression into more of using their mindset into optimism. And it's actually it's written quite well, but it's a bit boring. I'm not saying boring. It's it's not exciting for everyone to read. So then I thought, how can I make it more engaging? Then the whole topic change wasn't about anxiety and depression. Then I went, hang on, I've got some interesting experiences in my life, from childhood all the way through. Some traumatic, some good, the whole lot. So I just wrote a lighthearted way of my life story in just not the whole thing, but just parts I thought that could be relative to people in business where there's a message there. Or in certain well-being factors. So I've been writing that. It's called Cowboys on Sunrise. And when you read the book, you'll understand it. It doesn't make sense. But when you read the book, it's basically the journeys I took, and there's experiences that I went through that were great, and there's experiences that were tough. And there's a message in all of them, and I've lived quite varying stages of my life in many different ways. So, and there's a few famous people's names mentioned in there along the way. So nothing bad about it, but just mostly ones that I experienced through being mentored or became good friends with. And what I found in life is You know, always be kind and nice to the right to all people, because you don't know that one person you might be thinking is, oh, maybe that's not the right person for me to hang out with, or talk to, or whatever it is. Sometimes they become your best friend, or they open up a door somewhere else for you. So I think if you're open to the universe, it comes to you. You know, if you want to close yourself off, you're missing out on a hell of a lot of experiences and opportunities.
True, Paul. It's so true. I remember like going to job interviews as a pastry chef, and I'd go to the Sydney Opera House. I remember, and I was sitting there, and there was all these guys dressed smart in suits, and they were all chefs going for the same job that I did. But I bumped into somebody that was just working there that I did the apprenticeship with, and we exchanged numbers because we lost contact when we were doing the study at East Sydney TEF. And later on, I rang him up, and that connected with somebody else, and that got me one job, and that job got me another job. And before you know it, I was doing this and I was doing that. So it really is interesting. We don't need to base all our losses and all our failures on just, oh, I didn't get the job, or we lost this the soccer game. And that it could be somebody that's seen you play and said, look, that guy's so talented, and I think he's got what it takes to maybe play at a higher level. But Paul, like I said, it's been so great talking to you. Before we love you and leave you, can I just ask you, I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this back that would like to know, if they want to learn more about what you do and know about your book and some of the great stuff that you've been doing, if they want to get in contact with you, how do they get in contact with you?
Via email. I won't give my phone number out now, but I'm on LinkedIn, so they can contact me through LinkedIn if they're in that professional space. I've got a website called WellUp, which is wellup.au, which was designed for us as a startup for a vitamin and health and wellbeing company, but now I'm switching it now just to more of wellbeing and performance management. So yeah, so they can go on that website, or my email is paul@wellup.au. And I've got a Coach Toddy Instagram handle as well, and I do post regular. I find relevant information that I repost, and I do write a lot of my own sort of literature there and ideas as well.
Paul, how do you spell Wallup? Is it WALLUP?
No, well, so WELLUP, so well up, so .au, so like well-being, well up, so up, get your well-being up, not down. One thing I learned in life is the experience you have. Why not be wise instead of depressed? Why look down on all the bad things? Why not learn from that and share it with someone else and teach them from your experiences? Be wise.
Great motto, Paul. Great one. So there you go, guys. Paul Todd. If you want to find him or learn about some of the stuff that he does, he's giving you all the information. Great talking to you, Paul, tonight. Before we leave tonight, I just want to share with some of our audience some of the upcoming events that we've got. We've got an upcoming half-day retreat here in Bondi, which is going to be run down at Bondi Beach, where clients were going to be start the day just before sunrise, where we're going to run a yoga session. It's just before sunrise down on beautiful Bondi Beach. We're going to be doing some breath work and some human movement and yoga. And after that, it's going to be followed by some human movement classes and group fitness boxing classes down at Bondi Boxing Gym. We're going to have an amazing time, and we're going to be served a variety of beverages before we go up to the Nimbus Health Retreat, where there we will have a vision session, some neural transformation therapy sessions, and we'll all be having an ice bath, eating some healthy meals supplied by the Up South Cafe down here in Bondi, and some acai bowls and detoxing smoothies. If you want to learn more about this great event, it's only a half-day retreat, goes for about 4.5 hours. We'd love for you to join us. So just give us a call on either 0402 622 662 or look up Mayday Ronan Coaching on Instagram or Facebook. Apart from that, have an amazing evening, enjoy your week, and thanks for joining us.
See you, mate.
Thanks, Paul.